Hi friends, thank you for being here. Hope you're having a good day. I've been studying a topic I think is really important, and that is ways of answering critics and skeptics. Today I want to start looking at some of the challenges we can face as followers of Jesus. Bart who? I bet most Christians who've had discussions with non-believers would suggest Bart Ehrman. Why? He is a celebrity skeptic and writer. Wikipedia tells us he's a university professor of religious studies in America, a scholar of ancient texts, born in the 50s. Ehrman was formerly a Christian who deconverted to agnosticism. His fundamentalist upbringing leads him to claim that if he finds just one contradiction in a gospel, then the whole is untrustworthy. Yet J. Warner Wallace, the cold case investigator, reveals that police officers know that differences between witness statements make them more, not less, reliable. Ehrman is a fierce debater who often appears on talk shows and in debates. I don't rate debates too highly because there is no immediate opportunity to check facts, and it can be the personality of the debater that wins over content. For example, I have watched a theologian give an opening statement proving exactly why we can trust the Gospels. Then Ehrman cleverly redefines the debate in his opening statement, seemingly making himself top dog. There is no doubt that Ehrman is an extremely skilled debater. A pity, then, that he is almost always wrong, says Michael Bird, a lecturer in theology at Ridley Melbourne College of Mission and Ministry and a fellow of the Centre for Public Christianity in Australia. Bird says Ehrman sees divinity in the ancient world as having different meanings. Greco-Roman gods like Zeus supposedly became human, and humans such as Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar were venerated as gods after their deaths. So Ehrman argues that Jesus was divine in the sense of a human who was exalted to heavenly status, not in the sense of a heavenly figure who became human. Ehrman claims Jesus did not think he was God, so his disciples thought him divine in the exaltation sense and not the incarnation sense, and it was only later, with writings like the Gospel of John and the increasing veneration of Jesus in subsequent centuries, that Jesus came to be thought of as equal with God. I just have to say something at this point. For what reason does Ehrman think Jesus was crucified? It was on a charge of blasphemy, because the Pharisees completely understood that Jesus claimed to be equal with God. I'd also point out that if Ehrman doesn't believe the Gospels are true, on what grounds does he base any comments about what he thinks Jesus thought? Bird says Ehrman insists there was a continuum between gods and humans in the ancient world. But Bird contends that Jews and Christians always delineated God, with a capital G, from the rest of the created order. And whereas Ehrman thinks that Jesus was merely a prophet who proclaimed God's judgment of this world, Bird argues that the historical Jesus saw himself not just proclaiming, but embodying God's kingship. Jesus was not semi-divine or quasi-divine. He spoke and acted with a sense of unmediated divine authority with the God of creation and covenant, even telling Pilate that he would sit on God's throne. It did take time for a consensus to emerge in the early church about how Jesus was related to the Father and how Jesus' divine and human natures related to each other, But, Bird says, there's no doubt a high view of Jesus' person emerged very early on. Within 20 years of his death, in fact, Jesus' followers regarded him as a pre-existent being who became human, achieved a redemptive task by his death and resurrection, and was exalted to the right hand of God the Father. Atheists commonly don't accept the Gospels as historical documents, which they are, and this allows them to dismiss a whole swathe of evidence. This has the hallmarks of a practiced debater, when we're expected to defend our beliefs without using our source materials. If we then give a reasoned explanation from extra-biblical sources, they will then say that our source is biased. He or she is a theologian, or Christian, or apologist, or whatever. But who else would do the necessary research to refute the allegations non-believers spew out, often without giving a shred of evidence? And why should we accept, by implication, that atheists are unbiased? You can see what we are up against. Ultimately, only the Holy Spirit can touch their hearts and give them ears to hear. What we need to do is to correct the wrong information they put out. Although Ehrman claims that he is simply not interested in whether Jesus really is God, preferring to limit himself to the matter of history, Bird says he suspects otherwise. Ehrman, implicitly at least, is an evangelist for unbelief, enabling skeptics to keep up their antipathy to Christianity and at the same time trying to persuade followers of Jesus that their beliefs are a house of historical straw. The cynic in me recognises there is a lucrative market for books of skeptic propaganda, and there is certainly a worldly appetite for anything that gratifies self-conscience or supposedly allows freedom of self. We particularly see this nowadays in gender politics. Personally, I think it would help any Christian to be schooled in apologetics or defending the faith. I certainly never was, and have come to it late in life. I appreciate belief is about faith, but how can we protect our own trust in God without adequate training in how to respond to skeptics? I intend to talk about some common challenges in future videos. In the meantime, you might be interested in The Right Way to Debate Bart Ehrman on premierchristianradio.com, a blog by Justin Brearley, the unbelievable presenter. Bird says, for all of his failings, Ehrman has at least done Christians one favour. He has challenged us to ask afresh, who is Jesus? Some will say a legend, some a prophet, some a rabbi. There will be still others who just have to exclaim, like Thomas when he met the resurrected Jesus, my Lord and my God. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this has whetted your appetite to learn more. See you next time for the next one.